On Saturday afternoon, as families were shopping at food stands at the downtown food festival, security guard Charles Smith was monitoring the crowd. When a black SUV sped toward the festival, broke through security barriers, and began entering the crowd, Charles dropped his radio and started running. "Let's stay away until police arrive," shouted the security guard beside him. But Charles was already trying to intercept the vehicle because that engine sound wasn't foreign to him, and in the next 5 minutes, everyone at the festival would learn who Charles Smith really was. Because some people wear security uniforms, but never back down. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before we continue with this powerful story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today, and if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button. Charles Smith was the most reliable security guard at the downtown food festival. At 36 years old, he had been working at the same security company for 4 years, never receiving complaints, quietly performing his duties. Festival participants loved him because he was helpful and patient. Organizers trusted him because he was controlled in every situation. "Charles is our most experienced security guard," said Security Chief Mike Torres. "He's great at crowd control, can prevent problems, and stays calm even in the most stressful moments." But Charles's ability to stay calm came from places very different from normal security training. The festival shift started at 10 a.m. Charles followed the same routine every day, controlling the main entrance, monitoring crowd flow, identifying potential problems. But these controls were different from an ordinary security guard. He evaluated each area with a tactical eye, noting threat points, mentally rehearsing emergency scenarios. His colleagues noticed Charles's extraordinary attention. "Charles, you notice everything," they would say. "Observation," Charles would say briefly. He never went into details, never talked about his past. Charles's equipment was also different. Normal security guards carried basic supplies, but Charles's bag contained much more: emergency communication devices, tactical flashlights, advanced first aid kits, and special tools no one noticed. Charles Smith's real story began 18 years ago. He had joined the Army at age 18. As a child, Charles had watched a terrorist attack on television. That day, he made a promise to himself. "I will protect innocent people from terror. I will get the best training." When he joined the Army, he chose to become military police, but after basic training, he was selected for more specialized training. Army Counterterrorism Unit, the most elite program. This program was 36 weeks of counterterrorism operations training in high-risk areas. Charles was one of the most successful graduates of this program. Charles wasn't just learning counterterrorism operations. Vehicle bomb analysis, crowd protection, crisis management, vehicular attack intervention, civilian protection techniques. Most importantly, rapid response and minimal damage strategies. Charles's Army training wasn't just basic security. Modern military personnel received advanced threat assessment, vehicle-borne threat management, and civilian protection leadership training. "A soldier's job isn't just to fight," said his instructor, Sergeant Major Williams. "You're the person who protects innocent civilians from terrorists. Families, children, defenseless people. You make life and death decisions for them." Charles embraced this philosophy. Maximum protection through rapid response, vehicle threat neutralization, taking leadership in crisis moments. The most difficult part of his training was vehicle-borne attack scenarios. Vehicular attack intervention in crowded areas, festival environments, civilian events. Charles developed superior skills in this area. His first deployment was Iraq, counterterrorism specialist on the military police team. Charles's most difficult intervention was preventing a car bomb attack at a market in Baghdad. Through rapid response, protecting civilians, neutralizing attackers. His second deployment was Afghanistan, counterterrorism unit. During this period, Charles conducted the most complex vehicle threat operations: civilian protection in war zones, festival security, crowded event protection. His third deployment was special operations, classified missions, high-profile event protection. Over 14 years, Charles conducted over 300 protection operations with no civilian casualties in any of them. After receiving an honorable discharge in 2021, Charles had transitioned to civilian life. He used PTSD therapy, adjustment counseling, and career transition support. But Charles's goal was clear. His protection experience from war zones directed him toward protecting people in civilian life. He wanted to work in environments where people could enjoy themselves safely. Event security was a perfect choice. It reminded him why he became a protection specialist. But more importantly, it allowed him to be in the necessary position to be ready for security threats in civilian life. When Downtown Event Security Company hired him, Charles was overqualified. Security certificate, 14 years of military security experience, counterterrorism specialist background. But the hiring committee didn't ask detailed questions. "I've always loved working with people," Charles had said, and this time he was truly sincere. Charles's duties at the festival seemed simple: crowd control, entrance control, general security. But Charles was doing much more. He evaluated every event with a protection specialist's eye. He identified vehicle access points. He predetermined potential attack routes. "Charles, how do you know security systems so well?" his colleague Tom Wilson would ask. "Experience," Charles would say. "Every environment is instructive from a security perspective." This experience came from 14 years of counterterrorism training. Military personnel make rapid threat assessments, make critical decisions, provide civilian protection. Charles also knew the festival area's security systems very well. Emergency evacuation routes, vehicle barrier systems, communication protocols. He had a complete security map of the festival area in his mind. On Saturday, July 15th, a busy day had begun at the Downtown Food Festival. Charles was on duty at the main entrance checkpoint with Tom Wilson. At 2:30 p.m., there were thousands of people in the festival area. Families at food stands, children in the play area, crowds in front of the music stage. While Charles was doing his routine security tour, he noticed a black SUV rapidly approaching the festival area from the main road. This wasn't an alarm for Charles. Many vehicles came and went throughout the festival, but the SUV's speed and trajectory caught Charles's attention. This wasn't normal festival traffic. "Tom, look at that vehicle," Charles said quietly. Charles analyzed the vehicle's behavior. The SUV wasn't following normal festival entry procedures. It was trying to bypass the security checkpoint. When the vehicle was 200 meters from the festival area, it suddenly accelerated and headed directly toward the security barriers. Charles felt his 14 years of counterterrorism training kick in at that moment. This was a vehicle-borne attack pattern. "Tom, evacuate the crowd," Charles shouted. "Vehicle threat." Tom was shocked. "What do you mean?" But Charles was already running. The SUV had broken through the security barriers and was beginning to enter the festival area. Charles made a quick assessment in his mind. Black SUV, single driver visible, advancing pattern toward the crowd. This was identical to the pattern in Kandahar. 2,000 plus civilians in the festival area, including children. Evacuation impossible, response time 8 to 10 minutes. Charles had to intervene. Charles visualized the festival area's layout in his mind. The SUV's possible routes, stop points, civilian density areas. Tom, radio the festival organizers. Immediate evacuation announcement. I'm going to stop the vehicle." Tom couldn't believe it. "Charles, you're a security guard. This is police work." Charles looked at Tom. It was time to break the secrecy. "Tom, I'm not just a security guard." "What do you mean?" Tom asked. "I served 14 years in the United States Army. I was a counterterrorism specialist, vehicle-borne attack specialist." Tom couldn't believe it. "You were a soldier." "Army. Special mission, civilian protection from terrorist threats. Vehicle attacks, crowd protection, civilian protection." "Why did you never mention this?" "Because it wasn't necessary. I'm a security guard now." Charles pulled a small tactical device from his bag. "What is that?" Tom asked. "Military-grade communication device. I'll protect the civilians until police arrive." Charles began implementing his tactical plan. The SUV was within 100 meters of the festival area, advancing toward the crowd. First, he needed to direct the crowd to safe areas. Charles hacked the festival sound system. "Attention! This is security! Please move away from the main walkway immediately. Move to the side areas." The announcement surprised the crowd, but Charles's authoritative tone got people moving. Charles took position to intercept the SUV's path. He would apply tactics similar to that night in Kandahar. "Tom, call emergency services. Vehicle attack in progress." "Charles, this is too dangerous." Charles was no longer security guard Charles. His 14 years of Army training had kicked in. Charles realized the seriousness of the situation. The SUV was rapidly advancing toward the crowd. Standard procedures weren't sufficient. Charles drew his service weapon from his security belt. His 14 years of Army training kicked in. The first target was to neutralize the driver. Charles fired precise shots at the SUV's windshield, but the bullets didn't break the glass. The vehicle was protected with bulletproof glass. This was a planned attack. "Tom, this is a professional operation," Charles shouted. "Bulletproof vehicle." When the driver saw Charles using a weapon, he didn't panic. This man had come prepared. Charles changed his tactics. Instead of direct confrontation, tactical disabling maneuver. Charles took position and targeted the SUV's tire system. This was a vehicle stopping technique he learned in Kandahar. The first shot was aimed at bursting the front left tire. Charles pulled the trigger with steady aim. The tire burst, but the SUV continued. The driver was beginning to lose control, but was within stopping distance. Charles directed his second shot at the front right tire. This was the critical shot. It would completely eliminate vehicle stability. When the second tire burst, the SUV made a sudden directional change. The vehicle traveling at high speed with two front tires completely lost control. The SUV began swerving uncontrollably to the left. Physics laws kicked in. Momentum, friction loss, destabilization. The vehicle hit a concrete planter in the festival area and went airborne. It rolled completely over and landed on its roof. The impact sound echoed throughout the festival area. The crowd was in shock, but now the vehicle threat was eliminated. Charles immediately ran to the crash site. From professional training, he knew post-crash medical assistance was critical. The SUV's engine had stopped, wheels in the air, driver appeared unconscious. When Charles surveyed the crash site, he identified 2 civilian injuries. As the SUV rolled over, debris had hit 2 people. The first injured was a man in his 60s. He was at the festival with his grandson. A concrete piece had hit his head, bleeding heavily. Charles made an immediate assessment with his 14 years of combat medic experience. Head trauma, possible concussion, lacerations. "Sir, can you hear me?" Charles asked as he knelt beside the elderly man. The man was responsive but confused. Charles took gauze from his first aid kit and began controlling the bleeding. "Tom, call ambulance, multiple casualties," he shouted. Charles stabilized the head wound with pressure bandage technique. Military field medicine kicked in. The second injured was a woman in her 30s. SUV debris had hit her leg, possible fracture. Charles performed immediate triage. Elderly man critical, young woman stable but injured. "Ma'am, don't move your leg. I'm going to stabilize it," Charles said. The woman was in pain but conscious. Charles used improvised splint technique, wooden support from a festival stand, immobilization with his own belt, field surgery principles. "You're going to be okay. Help is coming," Charles said in a reassuring tone. Charles switched between the 2, injured, continuous monitoring, vital signs check. The SUV driver was also injured, but Charles prioritized innocent civilians first. Driver unconscious, possible internal injuries, but stable vital signs. Charles secured the driver with zip tie restraints and provided medical assistance. Airway clear, breathing stable, circulation okay, professional medical assessment. "Tom, tell police. Suspect secured, injured but stable." Charles was coordinating the entire medical situation. 3 patients, different priority levels. When paramedics arrived at the festival area, they found a professional medical scene. Charles had performed systematic triage and stabilized the patients. "Sir, medical background?" asked the lead paramedic. "Military police, 14 years experience, combat medical training," Charles said. The paramedics examined Charles's medical work. Professional level care, proper stabilization, excellent triage. Elderly man priority transport, young woman secondary, driver police escort to hospital. "Excellent work," said the paramedic. You saved lives today. Charles watched the patients being transported. Mission accomplished. Minimal casualties. Threat neutralized. The entire operation had lasted 7 minutes. Vehicle attack stopped. Civilians protected. Medical assistance provided. Police teams were amazed when they arrived at the festival area and saw the scene. Vehicle neutralized. Driver under control. Minimal civilian casualties. "How is this possible?" asked the police chief. "Security guard Charles Smith did it," said Tom Wilson. Police wanted to speak with Charles. "Sir, could you identify yourself?" Charles hesitated. Then he told the truth. "Charles Smith, Staff Sergeant, U.S. Army, retired, counterterrorism specialist." The police chief couldn't believe it. "You were a soldier. 14 years active duty, vehicle-borne attack prevention, crowd protection, counter-assault operations. Why did you become a security guard?" Charles looked at the families in the festival area. "Because I want to protect them." When festival participants learned Charles's story, their reactions were moving. 8-year-old Emma: "Uncle Charles is a real superhero." "No, sweetheart," Charles said. "I just love my job." Michael's father: "Charles, I don't know how to thank you for protecting my family." "I just did my job," Charles said. "No," said another participant, "you're a real protector." Security Chief Mike Torres met with Charles. "Charles, what you did today was incredible." "Thank you, Mike. I need to learn about your real background." Charles explained his situation. 14 years of Army experience, counterterrorism expertise, civilian protection leadership. Mike Torres was amazed. "Why do you work as a security guard?" "Because I want to serve people. Rank doesn't matter." "Charles, you're our company's most valuable asset. Would you like to become operations manager?" Charles hesitated. "I prefer to stay in field work." Charles was still working in the same security guard position at downtown event security. Festival security had increased, participant confidence had risen. Charles's greatest achievement was the sense of security he gave to the security sector. "As long as Charles is here, our events are safe," Mike Torres would say. One day, security company owner Roberts asked Charles, "Charles, do you ever regret it? Leaving your big military career?" Charles watched the families in the festival area. They were enjoying themselves safely. Children were playing. "No, Roberts, I protected soldiers for 14 years. Now I protect families." "Same mission?" Charles pointed to the families. "Yes. The protection mission never ends, only the location changes." Charles's story isn't just a heroism story. It's also the story of protection expertise, finding meaning in civilian life, the instinct to serve and never giving up. Because sometimes the greatest protectors work as security guards in festival areas to protect families. Every time Emma saw Charles at festivals, she would say, "Real heroes aren't always recognized by their uniforms." The courage Charles showed at downtown that day didn't just come from military training. It came from his determination to provide protective service to families in civilian life. "I'm no longer a soldier," Charles would say. "I'm a protector." But that day, he showed that sometimes you have to confront to protect. So I ask you, have you ever wondered about the stories of people who serve quietly at the events you attend? Do you know the hidden guardians waiting to protect your families? Share in the comments. Because here at Hidden Legends, we believe that real protectors can be found in the most enjoyable places. If this story moved you, share it, subscribe, and help these important stories continue. See you in the next legend. And remember, the security guard at the next event you attend might have protection skills you never knew about. Real guardians change their uniforms, but never their missions.